free grace still there? Hello?
Hey guys. Well, this was an
Hey.
unexpected stream, but the reason we're doing this is because it's becoming a repeated thing that people within Discord that are free grace or identify as free grace are apostasizing. So, PB, you want to talk to everybody and let them know what's going on, you know? And Noah and Joe Boy, go ahead and just throw your 2 cents in whenever, you know. Just
yeah. Hopefully my mic is doing well. So basically, So basically, what's going on is that, at least from my experience and from the experience of others in our cliques or groups, I guess you could say, different servers, we're seeing a lot of people, and you could say it's a sign of the last days, but we're seeing different people that are actually leaving either free grace of the system, but they're remaining Christian, or they're leaving Christian, like typical Christianity, like they're not Trinitarian, they're Unitarian, which I think makes you not a Christian in my opinion, or they believe, or they're just straight up atheist, right? Like we actually have one example of someone who is a straight up atheist or agnostic, which is very sad. And so it's just like it's happening. I'm seeing it right before my eyes, either literally my friends, people I talk to, and it's very grieving.
who is Angry Elmo, guys?
I don't know.
Angry Elmo, I don't know who you are. You have to show your face if we don't know who you are, or tell us your Discord name in the chat.
Let me see.
I've never heard that name, Angry Elmo, so I can't let somebody
Yo, get in the chat, bro. Join the stream, bro. Get word to send you the link.
Yeah, you're free.
I guess we can get Dit on here. Come on up here, Dit. Come on.
Well, okay, Dit definitely just woke up because he almost never joins streams.
Yeah.
Okay, you did a good job for, describing what's going on immediately, and maybe in the future we'll do like a more organized discussion of this. But what do you think is the cause?
I think the cause. Well, first, I think.
Well,
honestly,
am I here now? Oh, what's up, guys?
Yeah,
Oh,
you're
yeah,
here now,
you're
dude.
here.
Okay, bye.
Okay, you finally come to destroy the flock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so-
I'm coming to destroy the block, bro.
Okay, so
Yeah.
okay, legit. I think the reason is number one, lack of proper discipleship in a church. Number two is the fact that like people they get saved, they go into free grace, and it's this initial moment of like, oh man, I have to reform all of my initial ideas. And so, but the problem is that they get so stuck on one particular issue, and when they're just going from problem to problem, right? Instead of actually like developing a proper systematic theology. So that also relates to discipleship. Some of them don't go to church. Some of them just have bad influences in their life. Maybe some tragedy happened, but there's different reasons for each person.
Yeah, I think you did a good job there. The comments about the lamp will not be put on the screen. I'm just letting you know. Y'all gotta act mature here.
Okay, all
right.
No laugh jokes here. No laugh jokes.
Who
But
is
yeah, dude.
who is the Angry Elmo? Does anybody know? Can Angry Elmo message in the private chat and let us know who you are? If you don't respond, we're gonna have to believe that you're an adversary of some type.
It's Go-Go.
Adversary.
It's Go-Go?
No,
Yeah.
yo, Philip, you snitched,
No.
bro.
Go get
You
Go.
said.
Angry
Bitch.
Elmo, are you Go-Go?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
just say it, man. Yeah, come on, man.
All right, okay. All right. So so here's the thing. When did all right, first off, let's talk about free grace as it relates to Discord.
Mhm.
How did y'all find Discord, or were you already there because you played games? Let's start there.
Yeah, for me, it was just like, I found it because I played games. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else? Were they already on Discord because they were playing
Yeah,
games?
we were playing Smash Bros, Super Smash Bros, and then it kind of drifted into the conversation about apostasy and all this stuff. But
I don't mean immediately now. I'm talking about how you found
be mature.
how you found Discord, Noah.
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to that part.
Okay. In my legit. Not many people know this, but I was really interested in a Nintendo game called Super Smash Bros. And I would literally I made my Discord account just to play people on there in different servers. I don't really play it that much right now, but I made my Discord account mostly for that and that kind of stuff. And then I became a Christian and I use it for different purposes.
Okay, because some people would say that the stuff that we're experiencing is just Discord behavior or Discord mentality.
Mhm.
That this is not really free grace. What do y'all think about that?
I mean, I heard that take from like Walter because he thinks that in real life it's a lot different than it is on Discord because we see a lot of apostates on Discord, and it's like I guess like debates are more like toxic on Discord as well. It's easy to get like toxic and things for like
Okay. So, how many of y'all came? All right, let's talk about how y'all came to free grace and briefly.
All right, I can start.
All right.
All right, go ahead, Noah.
Go ahead, Noah.
All right, a while ago, it was basically like this. I remember I first heard Honorado Diamante kind of like give his presentations. It's just like this guy Smokey over here, PB, Soul Banana. His kind of like way how he got into it. I was listening to a video of like Honorado Diamante give his view on like many passages, Jonah 3:10 and Ephesians 2:8-9, and basically I was like kind of thinking about what he was saying. I was kind of like scoffing and pushing back against some of the things he was saying, but it was like some of what Honorado Diamante was saying kind of made me skeptical and kind of thinking about what he was saying. It was also like other people, like there was like one video, Free Grace Theology versus Lordship Salvation, and it was by Alan Parr, and he was like kind of talking about like stuff like that. It kind of like got me into like thinking about free grace, but like kind of like what pushed me into free grace, I guess you could say, like fully. I guess it would have to be like getting into the like Discord right here, or not Discord right here, but like where I found Layman on stream once. It was Larry Holmes versus Charles, and I basically clicked on the link and I found they were doing the debate, and I clicked on this what do you call it, YouTube link, and I found he was doing some kind of stream, and I just commented. I was against free grace on that time, and I basically I found that as I was commenting more and more, this guy Mark Bailey, he's hitting me up with questions like, do you want to go and join Discord? And I joined Discord, and I after so long, and PB here, he was basically on Discord, and we basically started talking on there, and Charles on there, and Mark Bailey himself on there. It just started growing on there, and I started hearing out more arguments, and I guess I just converted from community, but through time.
Okay.
All right.
All right, Phil, you just said all right. So can you go next?
All right. Thank you. So I came to free grace basically through most embarrassing way. Basically, I got fear-mongered into Christianity because I saw a video on YouTube that said you commit the unforgivable sin if you do this, like if you do A or B or C, that kind of those videos on the platform. And I got fear-mongered back into Christianity. I was circled into charismatic theology mainly because the guy who made the video, how charismatics tend to abuse how if you say things against like their miracles that they've seen, then you're unsaved, you're gonna go to hell, and you're a devil, and all that weird stuff. Then, after I came out of the charismatic theology due to Calvinism, I thought they were more conservative and more biblically accurate, and other than that, like, not as liberal as these people who were just kind of making up these ideas that weren't really biblical. I mean, you can just look at that and say, yeah, probably biblical or not, you know. But back to my point, in Reformed theology, I kind of began to read the Bible more. I began to flourish, but then I found Honorado Diamante on this video debunking Isaiah Saldivar. One night, I had just got done from a night of crying, and then found this video next morning. Then it was so it was interesting because you would see this perspective. You see this guy offering a new perspective on these passages that you've never seen before, and he does it so, at least at the time, and he did it so well, at least for me, that I was able to be convinced more and more into this free grace theology. And I eventually converted to free grace in September 17th, 2023. You know, so that would be my, at least the conversion up until like when I came into free grace. That would be the whole thing summarized.
All right, thank you. Woo, what about you?
Oh, me, I was just like, I grew up like I guess workspace, so I started watching guys like Isaiah Saldivar and like started like, you know, getting more deceived to it. But then I found guys like Honorado Diamante. It was actually Young Don that converted me, because I saw him like cook Gideon like really badly with work salvation, and I was just like, I was just persuaded by his arguments, bro. That was me. It's kind of a boring testimony, but you know.
Yeah, I want to come back to the Young Don thing in a minute, but no, it's not a boring testimony. It's what God used, you know, to bring you to that position.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
go. What about you? Angry Elmo?
TikTok.
Okay.
Got me into free grace. Started with IFB, and then got out of the IFB legalist. Very sad people. And then then from there, joined Discord through the Hyper Grace servers, and then free grace from there.
So when you say Hyper Grace servers, what are you talking about there? What makes them different from free grace servers?
Like rewards.
Okay.
Not believing chastisement, stuff like that.
So you're talking about like Sniffing the Pharisee server, or what server are you talking about?
Yeah, I started Sniffing server, yeah.
Okay. And at that time he was identifying as Hyper Grace, right?
I think it was like 50-50 at that time.
Yeah, because remember, he used to use that free grace theology thing on his server, and we pressed him and like, dude, you're not free grace, you know? So, okay, thank you. Joy Boy, what about you?
Yeah, I was mainly hardcore lordship for... Oh, you hear me? Yeah, I was mainly hardcore lordship for my whole life. Never convinced the free grace I saw online, on Discord. Never convinced of it. I just didn't want to believe it. But it's because of Wu and Hiruzen. They pressured me. They got me to free grace. They really they were telling me, okay, you got to pick a side. You can't be lordship. You can't be, you know, like you can't be a Calvinist. You can't believe in perseverance of the saints. You got to be one or the other. So I just went with free grace because I just saw what the scriptures said.
Okay. So Hiruzen, PB, you want to give us some background on Hiruzen, since you consider him?
Most people don't.
Go ahead.
Okay, so most people don't know this. He used to be a I think he's in the chat. He used to be dispensationalist, like hardcore, as far as I know. Then he became covenant theology, and then he became covenant theology, and then he was premill, and then he became amillennial, and I think it's only not that long. Like he was free grace at some point, right? Not that long ago. I want to say a year, a little over than that, and then I pressured him to become full preterist. I didn't actually want to become full preterist. It was more of a joke, but then he actually did become full preterist, and now he believes Jesus came back in 70 AD. And well, I'm just gonna say it. I think that's serious heresy. So yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, what I feel like what happened was like, I think what PB was trying to do was like he was trying to show him like what is the conclusion of his beliefs, like in order for him to like realize, oh, maybe I might be wrong about my interpretation. But instead of, I guess, him realizing that PB created a monster, right? He unsealed the thing that he was never supposed to. He made a monster.
Yeah.
Look what Dit asked, and I watched the debate between Tristan Gabriel and David Preston before I debated David Preston, and I skimmed through your discussion with Tristan Gabriel. So that's the extent to what I know about that. Hey, howdy.
Hey, howdy. Howdy.
Hey.
Wait. Yo, Howdy, do you go on Discord?
Why are you asking?
Not really.
No.
Dang, good.
I popped in at a good time.
bro.
Live.
Israel only preterism. Let's get it.
Yeah. So it looks like, I guess Dit maybe is going to be engaging with that. I don't know. I know SFT, he likes having debates against preterism. So, pre-meal versus that or whatever. So
Yeah, as long as it doesn't cook him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but so we got Haruzan. Why do y'all think Haruzan has changed his beliefs? It's so fast, What do you think is the cause of that? Is it Discord? Is it psychological? Is it spiritual? Is it overwhelming evidence? Is it people he hangs around with? What's going on there? What's going on with Haruzan?
It's just Matthew 24.
Man, it's Matthew. This generation.
No, I feel like it's that too. But like, here's the thing: it's not only Matthew 24. I think that was like the strongest case for why he turned into a preterist. But I think it's mostly because like I feel like the second coming was always a stumbling block for him. Like he never like grasped the idea that the fact that Jesus like didn't come back for 2,000 years. I think that was a stumbling for him. That's what I think.
So are y'all really thinking that if he continues in this path, that he's going to apostatize totally from free grace?
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, he actually wanted to debate a guy on Israel only. And what usually happens is that if he gets really badly defeated in his position, right? He usually tends to go towards the position that beat him. So it's kind of like a king of the hill sort of thing, right? Where it's like if you get a bigger fish, you want to go to that fish. You want to be that fish so you can kill all the other fish, right? And that's basically just what happens. It's just like you just want to win debates. Do it.
Okay. So who in here came to free grace through Young Don? Was it you, Woo? Is that who you?
Me. I think it might be only me here.
Okay. So what did you do? You personally, what did you do when Young Don left free grace?
I was actually devastated because that's where like I got my theology from in the beginning. Like he used to like cook people in free grace. Like he used to hop on even Sneeko's stream and talk about it. But when I found out he became like a Judaizer, right? He said that you need to be circumcised and keep the law of Moses. I was just devastated when he apostatized from free grace. But guys like Sniffing Out Pharisees and Jack Smack didn't leave him alone about that. They started saying like he was unsaved, and I feel like that hardened his heart even more. I think people should have like, I guess, be more loving when he like apostatized from the truth. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So what was Sneeko before he became Muslim?
He was just like agnostic because he grew up Catholic, but then he like started doubting it, I guess. So he just became agnostic to it. But he became a Muslim because of like Andrew Tate and stuff like that, the influence.
So after Young Don changed his views, you started associating with Sniffin, is that correct?
No. See, after like Young Don fell from the faith, I started watching guys like Honorado and sniffing out Pharisees. And then I come across a guy named Christian For Real. And then I joined his Discord. And then that was the beginning of my, Free Grace Discord journey. And then I joined like a bunch of servers and I found guys like Date, Smokey Grand, and Harrison, which obviously helped me grow even more, like in like scriptural knowledge. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say.
Yeah, You see what Risen Reality said? He said he found me from me going on Truth Cartel.
Oh, okay.
There's a lady, Chell. She was in the stream the other day from Truth Cartel as well. I hope I'm saying her name right. But so basically, what is y'all's experience with Toronto?
Basically an unstable teacher who calls people unstable.
Yeah, he literally called me unstable.
He doesn't know.
I had no idea you were going to say that. I really didn't.
He's an excessive weed, a weed high person who says things and rambles about things, and he doesn't come to a logical conclusion. That's the only way I can think about Mike.
Why?
Okay, that's what you think about him, but how did you first encounter him?
When I was in my Honorado phase, I had been looking for other grace teachers. Of course, there was it was sniffing out Pharisees, and there was another one. Doesn't matter. I had come to Mike when I was looking for more longer videos on Free Grace. And when I stumbled upon Mike, I had found him through Discord, through like some Discord, Free Grace Discord. Eventually, when I came to his server, I had spent time there, like December 2023 to like January 2024, where it was this big event every weekly, just kind of meeting Mike, just having fellowship, and I would think that was genuinely one of the best times that server has had. Right now, it's a common opinion amongst people that server is dead and that it hasn't been able to live up to its glory days, especially considering what Mike has been getting himself into. But that's just that's how I met Mike, through Discord servers.
Yeah. Didn't you used to go to my server too?
Yeah, that was how I kind of. Well, I came to yours, the Amazing Grace server first, and eventually I found Mike through like some like St. Carl's server, and then once that happened, me and Mike just kind of found that. So.
Okay. Anybody else want to say anything about their interactions with Toronto? Like how y'all met?
No, honestly, I think Philip described it perfectly, bro.
I think I remember.
Honestly, he's
Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm slow, but basically, I think the idea with Toronto is that I think he just needs to control his temper, because sometimes he can get into a heated argument, and it's not even that serious, but it's sort of like he takes it very seriously, especially in regards to like some of the early stuff we were doing, like with the crossless or the promise focus, however you want to do that. And that actually caused a huge schism, a huge rift. So that was kind of sad.
Okay, so
I feel like he has a really short temper. So like whenever someone has like a different view, like different reading of it, he just gets like mad, and like I don't know. I don't think he has an open mind when he debates people.
Yeah. So, all right. So here's what I've observed, and it could be wrong. It was when Young Don no longer identified as Free Grace that I encountered Toronto, I encountered Sniffin, and a couple others. At that point, I was already in Free Grace servers, and I have Free Grace servers, but I was like, when there's other people that have Discords that are identifying as Free Grace, so I started interacting with them. And what I saw was that Toronto was someone that was always able to be there for those guys. Sort of like how PB often is always available in the main server y'all use. And so, and then I noticed that Sniffin is where the hypergracers kind of went to, because he was influenced by destroying the works of the devil and some of those other guys and things like that. So have you noticed apostasy underneath Toronto more than, say, underneath the people y'all associate with? Or are Toronto's guys pretty solid? Yes, Asavako, I'm live. I didn't plan this, but these guys were having a good conversation that was important, and so I decided to go live. You can come in if you want to. And you're on Facebook. Anything else y'all want to say? PB.
Oh no.
No, he left. I think he has to go to sleep or something.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it. Oh, here he is.
All right. So the question was.
Oh yeah, I want to say something on this.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I think a lot of them from Toronto's are apostasizing. I do. I mean, you got Joaquin, atheist, Bramble, questioning Catholicism. Some other names.
Adrian Fry.
Adrian Fry,
yeah,
Universalist Unitarian.
Yep. Benjamin, the.
Oh yeah, Benjamin.
Yeah, Ben.
Universalist Unitarian.
Yeah, and then we got Noah, who's a Unitarian now as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Noah Faith Alone, Haruz and Frederick. I was kidding.
Ben the Crusader.
Are you saying these are all Toronto guys? Is that what y'all saying?
They all came from.
There was a similarity though, because everyone who apostatized,
they were spun off from Toronto.
Yeah, they all came from Toronto, so I feel like there's a similarity there.
Well, why do y'all think that Toronto's doctrine didn't protect them from apostasy?
I think it's missing. I think it's missing the aspect of, the atonement. The blood.
PB, what do you think?
I mean, I think it's missing on, the cross.
I don't
Christ
exactly.
Crucified, like Paul said.
Well, it's not like crosses or anything specific. I mean, like GES is crosses. I mean, they're pretty.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying it's just. I don't know. Maybe discipleship.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know too much about Toronto's discipleship. I can't say. But I mean, his disciples are not. They're going off into other directions, man, and they break off fellowship with him, and I've seen it before, and it's just like, well, what's going on there? Is it just a bad attitude? Does he have some bad theological views? I can't really comment too much on that, but it's just a trend, and hopefully Toronto sees it and he fixes it.
Yeah, and we can't act like Hypergrace hasn't had their fair share of apostates going to Sovereign Grace. So.
Yeah, well, I think Hypergrace, at least the version on Discord, is Sovereign Grace. It's borrowing from that. So Yahoo says he thinks the entire point of free grace is you can't apostatize. No. Free grace believes even if you apostatize, you're still saved. So, all right. So let me ask y'all this question.
Who's that hobo in the chat?
Be careful. I don't know what you're talking about, but so I guess what I'm saying is, all right, let's do this. Let's do some demographic stuff. What is the age? What is the age range of those that are apostatizing? Let's start there. Who is the youngest apostate that y'all know of?
Yeah, the thing is, most apostates, if not all of them, are actually above age 18. Besides Joaquin, like that's the way I see it. Because Bramble, Noah, like Young Don, Ben, like they're all over 18, right? So.
Oh yeah, another
Noah Faith Alone.
Philosophy has a big part of some of the apostasy's problems too. Like a little bit, not.
Well, yeah. Basically, it's like actually, what it is, it's not just philosophy. It's like anytime you get really deep into a doctrine that's not soteriology, which means it's not that as clear. When you get into doctrines like that, and you just start finding problems, and you start questioning even the Bible itself because of it, that's when you go the route of Bart Ehrman. and then you start going into the manuscripts, and you start questioning if even Jesus resurrected. I'm not saying that always happens, but I'm saying when you start, like, it's a specific road you can go down if you have that kind of focus.
Yeah. Y'all want to answer Ollie's question here?
Does he need a invite?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're mostly active on Walt server and Noah server. Noah Ramazan right here. So it's mostly these two servers.
Yeah.
Walter?
Yeah.
Well,
me and Smokey be talking all the time in Walt server, bro. It's hilarious. We used to cook Kenyon, and we actually made him. I mean, I actually made him leave.
Look, I still
Walter
have
the
5
legalist.
I still have 5 on Kenyon, so he,
I'm 5-0. Yeah, bro. I have like 7-0, so I'll catch up, bro.
All
right. So we'll get into the Kenyon and the Walter stuff in a minute, but let Ollie know y'all talk about the Pennsylvania server, right? And
yeah.
So, okay. So I guess you since y'all mentioned these other people need to know. All right. So who is Walter, and what's his story as it relates to free grace?
For me, I would say like he's just a guy. Like he's just a really he used to be more educated on soteriology. Like he's focusing on other things now, but he used to like write articles and blogs about free grace, defending it. But I think he took it all down because I think he's going through some stuff right now. So he feels like he's not worthy to like be preaching and stuff like that. So he's kind of doing his own thing now. That's what I would say about Walter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I came into a server, I didn't know much about Walter, and he's still kind of a mystery to me. But basically what Wu said, on top of the fact that he used to be he used to have a different attitude, and then he became IFB, and ever since then I've been trying to a lot of people have been trying to tear down his IFB beliefs, and trying to get him away from that, specifically because I think IFB is legalistic in many ways.
Yeah,
100%.
I feel that too, because I feel like
100%
he became really like way more fundamental after he became IFB. He started saying like, oh, all wines are talking about grape juice. Oh, that's a sin. That's a sin. I feel like it's a very like a legalistic mindset. I feel like Kenyon had a lot of influence on Walter. That's what I would say. Because yeah.
Okay. PB, you want to answer Janet's question, or anybody else?
What happened?
What happened to Christians when they were apostatized? Theology of the Cross, the Layman Seminary. I feel like the reason why people apostatize is because they're not really well grounded on soteriology. I feel like that's what happened to guys like Joachim and like Noah, because Noah really wasn't grounded in soteriology. He started debating like Muslims and stuff, and when he gets cooked on the Trinity because he can't defend it well, like Sam Shimon, right? And he starts like, when you get cooked like that, you start to doubt your own beliefs unless you study it. I don't think Noah did that. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like that's what caused like a lot of these guys to just fall from the faith, which is really sad. But
yeah. Well, okay. And here's the thing specifically about Noah. He says why he's Unitarian. In my opinion, I think Unitarianism.
Guys, we got to use it. We got to use a better descriptor. We have 2 Noahs here. All right.
Okay. Noah faith. Okay, apostate Noah. Okay, that's what he is officially.
Yeah, not Noah Rasmussen.
Yeah. Okay. So apostate Noah. I think Unitarianism is antichrist. That's how John describes it, and therefore I think you've apostatized from the faith if you don't believe at least in the deity of Christ, which I would count as apostasy. But he tells you why he left it. You can actually go to his website, which is faithalone.net, I think. It's similar to faithalone.com, and so you can see it. It's one of his primary articles, and if you want, you can answer the questions he posed to Trinitarians. So yeah.
No.
And see, another thing, what I would say is that with a lot of these apostates, some people are like really closed-minded and don't want to like even discuss why they apostatize or debate about it. Like Noah, right? I think he just bans people when people disagree with him and try to like challenge his views. Whereas what I could respect about Haruzen is that he's not a coward. Like he's actually open to like debates and people who wants to challenge his view just in case he's wrong. Like I'd say he's more open-minded about things like that, and I think that could help people to bring them back from the faith. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Trey.
Ooh.
Walter and Trey are sort of similar, right?
Yep, they're very.
They're like Woody and Buzz. They're like
Yes,
Woody-
they are.
Woody and Buzz. You
Wait,
got a
who-
friend in me.
They
Oh my
piggy,
God,
they
say that.
piggyback each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, who's
Trey
Woody?
blazes Walter so much that not even the people who aren't involved in these servers, they wouldn't know how much Trey like absolutely glazes Walter.
Well, okay, because every time that you oppose him, he's like, "Well, but hold on, but Pope Vault the second of 2025 said this in his article on Free Grace Hotspot," and it's like, I don't care, he's wrong.
Yeah, because like
Great.
he gets his theology
Like-
from Walter. Like everything, like Walter taught him everything about soteriology, right? And besides that, he just like focuses on like writings of Aristotle and like Aquinas. Like that has nothing to do with free grace, but you know, is what it is.
Yeah, well, he came to salvation through Young Don's ministry as well.
Oh, that's
So-
yeah. I think a lot of guys did. Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of these guys that we mentioned, they now have their own servers. Why do you think everyone wants to have their own server?
Control.
Indoctrination.
Yeah, control indoctrination. You want to
And
set
then,
the rules, and obviously, if you're a heretic, you're probably going to get banned from other servers, and so you feel isolated. So you're like, okay, I'm going to create my own. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
what happens to cults. I mean, it's-
I'm gonna
Another
take the
thing-
time to.
Another
go.
problem is too is that you keep pushing away people from soteriology, and you keep wanting to push your view. They're not going to be able to get the rest that they need in Christ because they're going to be worried about other things except the promise in the eternal life, stuff like that,
Mhm.
and their salvation. They're going to be questioning other things when they're first into it. I think you should just focus on soteriology, and then the other stuff could wait for later once they start developing more as it goes on.
Okay. All right. So let me ask y'all this question. If you're premillennial, how likely are you to fall into other false teachings if you're premillennial and free grace?
1,000%. You will. You just will.
I
But if you
mean,
feel proud of it, you
Hmm.
won't.
well, I mean, I mean, it's just like, I feel like any heresy can come your way. I mean, it depends. Like, okay, you're premillennial, which means, okay, you at least take a Revelation 20 in a literal sense. But it's like, well, is that enough? I mean, because Noah Faith Alone is premillennial too. He's covenant premillennial, but yeah, I mean, but he's Unitarian now. So it's like, I think you can get false doctrine from just any place if you don't have a good hermeneutic.
So have y'all noticed about some of the guys, because of the mark of the beast thing, they're going more on the Ruckman side of things? Have y'all encountered them people?
Rugman.
Yes.
Go ahead, Phil. Talk about it.
Wait, hold up. What was the question again?
Well, just about people that you feel they're free grace, but they decided because there's such difficult passages like the mark of the beast or other things maybe in the Old Testament that they've decided that they would rather line up with dispensational salvation, or what some people call Ruckmanism.
Hyper dispensationalism.
Yeah, that's no term. There was this guy we had. I think some of us know. His name is. Let's just say his name is. He runs the Contra Catholicism server. You guys know him? DB.
Wait, who's it?
The Contra Catholic server.
I don't think
I'm actually more like knowledgeable on that one. That server is owned by this guy called Salty Cracker, and he's a hyper dispensationalist.
Oh, okay, okay. I have talked to Salty Cracker. He's extremely arrogant.
Insufferable to say the least. He's insufferable. Yeah,
insufferable.
What's the Salty Cracker's name? I mean, his story.
Okay, so I think I can explain the best because I spoke to him. I think I spoke to him the most in this voice call. Is I would say he believes in hyper-dispensationalism. He believes that in the Old Testament, people were saved by faith and the animal sacrifices and adherence to the law. And after you get raptured, those people in the tribulation are saved by works as well. I think that's his beliefs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. Now I'm gonna. We kind of got agreement now. I'm gonna try to disrupt that a little bit. What role does dispensationalism have in free grace as it relates to guarding against apostasy, or does it?
Free grace and dispensationalism intimately linked by Grant Halsey.
Yeah. No one's gonna know what that means, PB, unless they go look up the name of the book. But no, all right. So here's what I'm trying to get at, guys. What is the solution to the free gracers on Discord apostasizing?
Better study.
I feel like it'll be like I feel like these Discord group calls and voice calls actually help me a lot to stay in the faith, because I feel like a lot of guys would keep you in check and keep you accountable. I feel like Smokey does a great job at that, you know, like, and did as well, because like if you have like a really crappy interpretation, they would just cook you and be like, hey, no, that's not right, and you know, you should just hold to this view instead. I feel like that's really important, not to like, you know, lead onto your own understanding and just be prideful and stuff like that. That's what I think. But yeah.
Me personally, I'll say stick to soteriology until they're ready to move to the next thing, because before I came over here from TikTok, that's kind of the what I was doing majority of the time, was sticking with soteriology for about 6 months till I was ready to look into other things, and it helped me out a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so
here,
now
look at Dit's question here.
Let's look at it.
Can you guys answer this question? All answer this question. Can all of you put a percentage on the chance you give yourself of apostatizing in your lifetime to any extreme doctrine within the faith altogether? Well, I mean, we got to deal with the reality. It is possible.
33%.
I go for that. I give it a quick coin toss, 50-50. Now of course that's not to say it's more like it's sort of like throughout your lifetime, any doctrine, it's like that's kind of a long time, and it's like and also on top of the fact that I think that if you think it's like a super low percentage, not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just like it's sort of like well why, like, is it because of the doctrine, or you think that you can defend well against it? It's sort of like I usually I don't know.
Okay. 50-50.
What about me? Where do you think I should be at on that? Because Dit's been making some jokes in the chat, and I just wonder if y'all agree.
I mean,
am I the next one to apostatize?
I mean, if they cook your charts, then you're cooked. If they cook your charts.
Yeah, like it's like what they say. You either run it through the chart or the chart runs through you. So
yeah, whoever falls in this chart will be run through. If the chart falls in you, you will be ground to pieces.
Everyone wants to run to the chart, but why can't we just walk through it?
No, why can't we just let the chart run through us?
Let's walk through it, guys. Let's not run.
Well, walking is experiential usually.
Yeah.
By the way, there's something I've been working on. I'll show it to y'all, and y'all tell me what y'all think. Let's see. I've actually been thinking about my debates in times past, and I made a chart of my debates. Right? I mean,
in Genesis, the chart is the best.
Let's see. I gotta remember where I put it. Yeah, because we talked about the problem. We talked about some of the people, you know, how they've been affected. We talked about those issues, but I just want to talk about the solution. And I know y'all have alluded to it a little bit. Some people are saying study more. Others are saying accountability. Others are saying a church, you know. So, I mean, what's going on there, guys?
What kept me to free grace was the promises of God. That's really that all kept me to free grace.
Well, I'm gonna be completely honest. Church never really helped me because I always fell asleep during church. So I would say this keeps me up longer and helps me study more.
Okay.
I mean, well, for me, I always find things to study. Even if it's after like a while of not doing much, I still find something to get interested, some new doctrine to get interested, like you see with my my series on this channel. So it's like I always just try to have that stuff in the back of my mind, and also the fact that like I have written a lot on soteriology, and so it's like, well, I kind of just have that established, so now I can move on, right? So yeah.
Okay. It's definitely accountability with study. It's those two things.
Yeah, I would say accountability with study and like with other people, because like you always need other people to like keep your interpretations in check and stuff like that, and keep you in check as well.
Technically, if I didn't have anybody, I would be some universalist Catholic, whatever. And
I be keeping Joyboy in check all the time. Like there was a time like he almost became a uni, and I was just like, nah, dude. Like I just kept pressing him.
I think another thing that it's very crucial in this would be honesty. Like, are you just kind of making an assumption? That an assumption to fill a gap in your theology just because you want it to be that way, or are you being honest with yourself? Again, many people like Mahler and a lot of these other guys, they want to be honest, but again, that's debatable. But the whole idea is just that as long as you're being honest with yourself and saying, is this a plausible, logical conclusion, or logical line that I'm following? If not, then I went off track somewhere, and that's
Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna shift gears for a minute, and y'all let me know what y'all think of this. So this is I'm currently charting out my debates that I've done. So you notice I have the opponent here, whether they hold a degree or not, whether they have inside knowledge of their position, whether they have free grace knowledge, whether that person prepared, or my perception of that, whether I prepared and to what degree, where do I rate them on style, what about the intensity that the opponent had compared to my intensity, and then an overall, okay? So how many of y'all have seen my first debate?
I haven't.
Hey, John, how are you doing?
Oh, hey, John.
What Praise I Am has a different channel now. He kept having problems with YouTube, but you could search for him still. PB.
Yeah, what up?
So what do you think about this? You've seen my first debate, right?
Yep, with Daniel Mayer.
Yeah, so he didn't hold a degree. His inside knowledge of his view of things, I gave him a 1. You know, he pretty much just borrowed his ex-Muslim view and read it into loss of salvation. His free grace knowledge, I put at a 1. His preparing, because he said in the debate he didn't prepare, I put it at a 1. But I prepared at a 9 level. Okay.
Ooh.
His style, I put at a 1.
Ooh.
His intensity was a 3 because of mainly his culture. And then my intensity I was at a 7. It was raw. It was my first debate.
Ooh.
And, overall, it was my first debate, but it was a disappointment because my opponent didn't prepare. Okay.
Dang, he did bad. I got to rewatch that one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he had the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit should have guided him.
Well,
hey, come on, man.
I see merit on this.
Come on, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So then we got David Preston. He's got some type of undergrad secular degree. I don't know what it is. His inside knowledge on Ruckmanism, he's like a 9. All right. His free grace knowledge, it's like a 2. All right. And he prepared, no doubt about it. So I give him a 9 in preparation. I prepared a 9. And his style was a 9. And his intensity was a 8 aggressive. And so I believe I matched that intensity with the 8 aggressive. And this was my first knowledge-based debate, you know, with somebody that actually had debated before. I think he debated in college or something, was in a debate team or something. So then we got Merritt. Somebody just mentioned his name a while ago, right?
Yeah, I was researching him like beforehand, like long before this, and he seems like a very interesting guy. Don't really necessarily agree with him, although I am aware that he apostatized from free grace. That's all. That's all I'm aware. Yeah.
Well, I actually saw that you put. Okay, so the only person that has a 10, as far as I know, in this system is Sean Griffin, because he knows his system like the back of his hand. You know?
And nobody else does.
Yeah, he can't even share it. It's so bad, so bad.
Yeah, but no, that's good. And see, that's the difficulty. I mean, when you're taking on David Preston and he knows Ruckmanism at a 9, but his free grace knowledge is at a 2, you know, there's a problem there. You know, so yeah, I put Merritt as an 8 at conditionalism, and I put him at free grace knowledge at a 7. And he prepared at a 9, though, no doubt about it. And so he was about an 8 aggressive, and I was about an 8 aggressive. This was my first exegetical leaning debate because we did 2 Peter chapter 2. Okay. Fourth debate. This one is with David Preston again. So it's pretty much the same thing. Let's see if there's anything different. It was a little bit more aggressive, but I still think we kept in the 8 level. There might have been more calmer times. And this was my first overall book debate. Okay. Then Richard Lee, my first degree holder, has a Master's of Divinity from Church of Christ. So his inside knowledge of Church of Christ, I put at a 7. His free grace knowledge, I put at a 5. It may be lower than that. He definitely prepared. I prepared. And I gave him a 5 intensity. I pretty much carried him in that debate. And because he has a speech impediment, though. So my intensity level in that debate was a 5, sympathetic. So you're kind of seeing, except for my first debate, I try to match a person's intensity. So look what happens. I debate Turretin fan. I don't know if he has an undergraduate degree or whatever, but his inside knowledge of Calvinism, I put him at a 9. His free grace knowledge from that first debate, I put him at a 6. Okay? We both prepared. His intensity was a 5 calm. You know? And because he went 5 calm, I only had to go 6 aggressive. And so it was a pleasant debate. When people were complaining about my debate with Rogue Calvinist, I said, well, maybe this one is more to your liking. And I gave him that one. Then we got Travis Thomas. Anybody see that one?
Yeah, I saw that one. That one was just funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It is. I don't think he has a degree, but he's got an 8 knowledge of Church of Christ. And I gave him a 6 on free grace. He definitely prepared. And he was an 8 aggressive. And so I said it was hype, but it was funny. Then we got Dan Chapa. I don't know if he has a professional degree, but I gave him a 9 when it comes to Arminianism. Free grace, I went ahead and gave him an 8. Okay. And you know, all of this is subject to change, but this is just my initial thoughts. But he's a 5 calm, just like Turretin fan. So I just had to be a 6 aggressive, pleasant. Then we get to Larry Helms. PB, you want to fill people in on that debate if they haven't seen it?
Okay, so I watched it once, And then I did my informal debate with Larry Helms. I think I did okay. I hope I won. Okay. And then I watched the debate again and I realized, oh, he used the same arguments against me. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And but okay, Layman was legit kind of rude. Okay. Yeah, I think like Larry Helms was like partially blind, right? So I mean like there were problems with that. But yeah, Layman, that might have been probably the most aggressive I've ever seen him in a debate, against a PhD especially. So
yeah, and the thing is because I felt like he was how would I say this? He was pretending. Anyway, to make it simple, I put him at his intensity style was an 8 triggering. And mine, I went 10 aggressive in there at certain times. But that was mainly because of personal issues that I knew about him beforehand. So here's my point. From my first debate one, it was like you didn't prepare. But that didn't haunt me, okay? I still had people that prepared. I had pleasant debates. But now I had a guy who it was personal issues, all right? And so that affected me. And then we got Matt first. Anybody see that one?
No, I didn't see that.
On replacement theology?
No, I didn't really see the eschatology one.
Okay. Yeah, so we did a debate on replacement theology. I bought his book and I read a lot of it. But he was a pastor. I don't know what he is on degrees, but he's a number 7 anti-dispensationalist, okay? And I went ahead and gave him a 7 on free grace. Because, I mean, he's like SFT, in that sense. He prepared. I think his preparation was probably a 6. I think he was just going off of what he had wrote in his book, so here's the thing about it. And when it came to intensity, Matt first, it was almost like nothing but a debate of rebuttals because he would talk for like 5 minutes and I would ask for equal time. And so I had to be respectful of him because he was a pastor, right? And so he went with this 7 rebuttal intensity. So I did a 7 aggressive. And the thing I disliked about the debate, it was very restrained. It was okay, but it was restrained. Mm-hmm. Then we get to Turton Fan and Dan Chapa, the 2v2. Whenever we have Eli and I versus Turton Fan and Dan Chapa. So for their position, I put them at an 8. For their free grace knowledge, I bumped them from a 6 earlier to a 7. Okay, because I know part of their debate prep. Both of them prepared. They came in at a 6 comm. Earlier they had came with a 5 comm, but the stakes are higher now, right? So I came with a 7 aggressive, and overall it was pleasant. So then we have Lucas Curcio. PB, you want to talk about Lucas? About him?
I didn't watch that debate, but I've seen clips of it. I think that, his arguments, especially from 1 John, are really lackluster. I think that he didn't really understand free grace and their rebuttals to his system. And of course, he has a video about like, oh, this one verse destroys OSAS. Well, I mean, it debunks Calvinism, but it doesn't debunk free grace. So, yeah, but I do got to watch that debate though. But
okay,
yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry to interrupt. Who are you guys talking about, and what was the verse?
Lucas Curcio.
And what was the verse?
When I debated him, the debate was over free grace theology, biblical, and
nobody said something like this verse proves like OSAS, but like what was the verse?
Hebrews 6, 4-6. The verse where it says you can't.
Okay, I get it.
Now you see that verse disproves that you can't apostatize, right? But kind of like either if you're Calvinist or whatever. But I see no problem with that when it comes to free grace.
Honestly, here's the thing I would like to say, right? I would say that verse is like two birds in one stone. I think it disproves Calvinism, and I think it disproves conditionalism at the same time. Because I feel like that proves, if anything, proves OSAS. Like, that's my view on it. But yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. He debated a guy, a Calvinist at Apologetics, Jeff Durbin's church. And in debate preparation, I studied that because this guy came off like he was quoting Greek and all of that. So I came in preparing hardcore for it, right? And I in my opening, I shot down everything that he had mentioned in that previous debate. And I tied it to free grace. But he accused me of changing the debate. He said the debate is not perseverance. The debate is whether free grace is biblical. And then he wants to define free grace as biblical, meaning the Wesleyan definition of free grace is biblical. So
what is the Wesleyan definition of free grace?
Oh, he believes in entire sanctification, that you can reach a certain point where you're sinless, basically. So he was a 7 passive aggressive. I was an 8 aggressive, and I was extremely disappointed there. Okay. So then I debated CJ Cox. Now here's the thing to understand. Before I ever started formal debating, CJ and I on streams, we had gone for hours. So there was a lot of hype for this one. I gave him a 7 Calvinism. He does have a book now written on it. A 6 free grace knowledge. As far as he prepared, I gave him a 9. I think he did prepare. And far as his style, I gave him an 8. Wait, hold on. Yeah, an 8. And so he was an 8 aggressive. And so I was an 8 aggressive. And the main thing about that debate, it was hype. That's what I'll say. Okay. Then we get to Kelly Powers. Have y'all seen the Kelly Power debate?
Nope.
Yeah, that that one, I will say he doesn't really understand free grace, and he just goes off of his like he literally copy pasted. I think he copy pasted his entire slide from something else, right? And it's just disappointing. I wish that, and then on top of the fact that he just hand waved away certain things, and of course he really didn't like your Matthew 7 interpretation, so it's unfortunate.
Well, he did a lot of stonewalling in that debate, like just being evasive for no other reason. It was like, dude, we're trying to understand each other's positions so that we can actually refute each other's positions. So I gave him a 6 when it comes to eternal security, and I gave him a 5 when it comes to free grace knowledge. His style, I did not like his style at all. He's low, like at a 6. I put him as a 9 aggressive. Okay, so I went to a 9 aggressive, and he was too evasive. And part of this was the after effects of the Larry Helms thing. But still, I never went to the 10 level, okay? And so there's that one. Then we have Tommy McMurtry. Did y'all see that one over Matthew 25?
I saw a little bit.
Okay.
And I know his thoughts on that. I would say that it's just not your area of expertise. You know, it's just like it's eschatology, and he's not dispensationalist, so yeah.
Well, similar to the Matt First, he was a pastor, which means I felt restrained, and he talks a lot too. And so he's a 7 at anti-dispensationalism, and I gave him a 7 for free grace. But the same type of style, the rebuttal thing happened, so I went a 7 aggressive. All right. So then we have the Seraphim Hamilton debate. That was my, besides Dr. Helms and also, where's his name? Richard Lee. I need to put this as blue. These were the degree holders that I know of in theology. And so he has academic degrees. He's a 9 in Eastern Orthodox, but I put him at a 6 in Free Grace. I think that he ran a 8 professional, and I ran a 8 aggressive, and this became the academic standard for all my debates. You agree with that, PB?
I mean, yeah, I think he's just very, very professional, very polite. Horrible theology, but he's still. I think overall it was just like pretty good and exegetical.
Yeah, because my debates with Dan Chapa and Turton Fan, they were professional, they were good, but the academic clout, wasn't there. Okay. So then we had a night of eschatology. You had different people in there. Can't remember all their names. Professor was in there. Professor Preterist, Tommy McMurtry, Phelan McFallon, and Sam Frost. And so some of them people had academic degrees. They had like a 9 eschatologically, but I think their free grace knowledge overall was about a 2. And then, so that was an 8 professional. Okay, they came at about that as an 8 professional. But the thing about it is I pulled up freestyle. So if you look at my debate prep for that one, let's see, where is it? Night eschatology. Where's the debate prep? Yeah, I put it at a 7 because it wasn't really preparation. I didn't even know I was going to do it. I was going to pull up, So there was a little bit of preparation, at least prepared I ever was for that. Okay, let's see here. Then we have Andrew Griffin. I don't know if he holds any degrees, but he's a 7 when it comes to Unitarianism. All right. And that one, it was running an 8 professional. And it was pleasant, but he wasn't showing his true colors in that one. So then I debated Sean, and as PB pointed out, he's a 10 in his own system, but I put him at a 5 of free grace. And I went ahead and I put it at a 7 professional, but he's very passive aggressive and sometimes evasive. And so I ran at an 8 aggressive. And I was overall disappointed, in that one. Then I debated Andrew Griffin again, the Unitarian, with his 5 level of free grace. And it was an 8 aggressive throughout. And as I said, he showed his true colors. So then I debated Sky Out. Have y'all seen my debate with Sky Out? Do y'all know who Sky Out is?
Yeah, Sky Out used to be moderate Calvinist, and then he became hardcore Calvinist. Now he's basically lordship, and I mean, it's weird because like I think he admitted that he's Augustinian, which means I think he believes that someone can be an actual believer, but because they're not elect, they'll still go to hell, right? Which is crazy, but
Okay. I'm not, maybe he went that far, but I gave him a 7. He's had some undergrads, but I gave him a 7 for Calvinism, a 5 for free grace. That was an 8 aggressive, and that I put out a 4th a killer opening because I gave the arguments for the Greek arguments for apostasy in the free grace stool, and but it was still a disappointment. So then I debated Turton Fan again, and give him a 9 Calvinism. I bumped him up to an 8 on knowledge of free grace. So you could say that he was running a 6 com in this one, or a 9 professional, and I was running about a 7 aggressive. It was pleasant, but So this is when I debated him on 1 John. The first debate was over perseverance. Then I debated Dan Chapa, who's a 9 in Arminianism. I bumped him to an 8 on free grace. He ran at a 9 professional. I was a 7 aggressive. It was pleasant, but it was still disappointing. The John 15 stuff.
Are
then
American Fan and Dan Chapa the only non? Well, I'm not counting the Ruckmanites, but the only non-free graces that have the highest knowledge of free grace because of how much they read.
They actually read Dillo. They read Dillo in their streams, so yeah, I would say so.
Yeah,
that's a good observation. Okay, so Dan Chapa, I already mentioned that. Now, then I had to debate David Preston for the third time, and there was a lot of issues leading up to this one. So we escalated it real big. So he's 9 Ruckman, 7 free grace. He came in 9 aggressive. I went 9 aggressive, and it was raw, and it was a brawl. Okay, so I was hitting with the professional punches, but it had the fight power of my first debate, the intensity. Still not the 10 of against Larry Helms, but it was raw and it was a brawl. Then right after that, and I moved some things around because I still don't have everyone on here right now. Then I debated Sangenis. So
dude, that was literally hands down the funniest debate I've ever seen, bro.
Really?
It was hilarious.
It's hilarious. Dude, even Donnie was laughing at the end. He's like, he couldn't hold it, bro. He broke character. It was the funniest thing
I love it. Like, so Dennis was like, I can't believe you said the covenant is sociological, not soteriological.
Dude, he was losing his mind. He was literally facepalming. He's like, oh my goodness. What am I doing?
So tired. You just done with the like,
do you see how my eschatology reflects my soteriology and my hagiology? And then some Genesis is like, yeah, they're all wrong.
They're all wrong. You got to be Catholic, man.
Yeah, Sangenis is a cool guy. He's good at rhetoric, but he didn't really deal with my issues. That's the thing.
But yeah, guys, God bless. I'm gonna have to go now, but you guys take care, right?
Yeah. God bless, Woo.
Yeah.
God bless.
All right, so yeah, I gave him a 9 at Catholicism, and I gave him a 6 at Free Grace, and I put this as a 9 aggressive, okay, because it was aggressive, but it was like gentlemanly aggressive. So the way I put that, it was raw but academic. When he said, "I'm not going to go any further until you establish one moment of belief," that's whenever I pretty much had to go raw and argue for the free grace stool. Then I debated Will Kinney, and I'm not sure what all degrees he had, but he's like a 9 when it comes to KJV, and I would say a 5 at free grace. But his style, that was like a 7 rebuttal, so I was about a 7 aggressive, and I was restrained. Then you had Taylor Barrett, the guy that thought Sangenis did a bad job and that he could do better. He had an academic degree, and so I gave him a 9 at Catholic, and then Free Grace a 6. And it was 8 professional, and I went about an 8 aggressive. It was academic but disappointing. And then I debated Caleb Percher. Don't know if he had any degrees. He's a Unitarian of some type, monarchian or whatever. Free grace knowledge is 6, 8 aggressive. So I met him with that. It was professional but disappointing. Okay. Then Scott Clem, I think he's got undergrad. He's at 8 progressive covenantalism. And I'll give him an 8 when it comes to knowledge and dispensationalism. Because he was mentioning things that a lot of people don't know about it. Go ahead.
Well, he said that he was dispensational before, right? One time.
Yeah, I think so. But that was an 8 professional, and I was at an 8 aggressive. And so overall, that was a professional debate. Then I debated Sean Griffin again. Okay. And so once again, that was an 8 aggressive. And then I debated George Antonios. Like I said, there's some missing on here. And he's a 10 at Ruckmanism. Okay, because he's got a doctorate in it. So I've debated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 people with degrees. 1, 2, 3 PhDs, and 1, 2, 3 master's level. Anyway, so here's the thing, PB, and it's not debate 36, it's debate 37. I still got to do some more fixing in here, but I want your help, okay? I want you to rate my debate with Rogue Calvinist.
Okay, Rogue Calvinist. He doesn't have a PhD, right, or any degree?
No, he's in seminary. He's undergrad seminary.
Okay, undergrad. Knowledge of Calvinism. I'm giving him no offense. I'm giving him like an 8, right? 7 or 8. Because first of all, I think his arguments don't work. But second of all, but I mean, like, he's not bad. I mean, like, he has good rhetoric. He has like a good way. He knows the Calvinist way of speaking, right? Like, it's kind of like John Calvin. So I give him honestly like a 7 or 8 Calvinism. No,
okay.
It's not, yeah, and
I put him at a 7. All right. What about his knowledge of free grace?
Well, I think he knows what the system is. I think he's just appalled by it. I want to say I'm giving him like a 6. I mean, I'm giving 6 pretty great. Pretty.
All right. So, far as preparation, where would you put him on preparation?
Yeah, I'd put him. I honestly think he didn't watch anything you put out. I think he skimmed through it at best. So I'm giving him like a 7 preparation, or maybe even a 6. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, we'll give him a 7 because he did prepare, but he didn't prepare the way he could. He even mentioned I think it was last night, that he pulled away from the internet for 2 weeks. So when I'm making videos to help him in the debate, he's pulled away from the internet. All right. You think I did a 9 in preparation for that one?
I mean, you did a lot of preparation. You did the stream before,
Yeah. All right. So what about style? Where would you put Rogue Calvinist when it comes to style?
Style. Well, I forgot what that category was about. What does style?
Style can be his openings, his cross, how he counters things, his manner, his tone, something. So, like, look at the lowest level ones. So Daniel Mira didn't prepare, didn't really have a style, and so that was cut. Richard Lee had a 5, but because of his impediment, he didn't really have a style. The Matt First, I gave him a 7 because of that rebuttal type style. Mertry, kind of the same. So you get an idea now about what I mean by style?
Yeah, he has it. I think he does have his own style. I think that it's actually sort of like a Stonewall. It's actually gaslighting.
It's triggering. It's triggering. So
it's intentionally triggering. So yeah.
And that's the thing. He kind of did a similar thing that Larry Helms did to me. So because he channeled a little bit of Larry Helms, I don't even know if he did that intentionally, and Kelly, that was triggering. So that's what I would say. Well, I'm sorry. That's aggressive style. But if he would have done a PowerPoint opening, I would have gave him a higher level style. So I'll give him a 7 on style. Now, what about his actual tone in the debate?
I mean, it was triggering. It was intentionally designed to evoke emotions, doubt, etc.
Yeah, because but what he kind of did was he got me hyped up, right, aggressively, so that I would go after him aggressively in the debate. But then he flipped the switch and went calm in the debate. He even used shh, like he was talking, and so it was a master move on his part. It really was.
But here's the thing, you did right, eventually. So he kind of got you there. So
well, I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny, So yeah,
but yeah. But here's the thing: you were definitely more aggressive. Way, you were like a 9. So
okay, 9 aggressive. But you agree that I never went to a 10 aggressive.
No, that's reserved for one debate so far.
All right. Well, here's the problem. Overall, what keyword would you describe this debate as, or phrase?
It was hype.
Honestly. It was hype, and Lotus first run. But the issue is this: I caught more backlash from this debate. I mean, this guy's got stands that are saying that I lost,
And then we had that Free Grace, that Free Grace downfall documentary that was documenting this whole the preparation to the debate. Like this,
yeah,
I was watching it. And I was like, okay. I was watching it. This man was like using this AI voice. Like this guy named Layman doesn't even reply with scripture in the comments. He mocks people by saying, "You want to film and debate that?"
I've actually done reactions to I think 2 or 3 of his videos. I think only his biggest disagreement is Free Grace is nothing, right? He just doesn't like the fact that people like Free Grace Warrior say, "Oh, you could be a Satanist" and all that stuff, and it's like the provocative tone of it. He have an actual argument.
They think we're mocking them. Essentially, they think we're mocking them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So overall, I did this. I'm doing this, because I need to check myself. I recognize that my overall approach in a debate is aggressive, and that's fine for most debates. But here's the thing. I went a 9 aggressive, and people lost their minds over this debate. And so it's like, dang. So here's what I've learned. And I've learned this through interacting with Toronto also. Number 1, in debates, if a person doesn't prepare, you still can't let that get to you. Okay? Number 2, if you know personal things about somebody and you don't trust the person you're debating, you still can't let that get to you. All right. Number 3, even if a person aggressively, baits you into a debate and they didn't take advantage of all the stuff that you do, you still can't let that get to you. And that was the lesson I learned from that, and I just think that my goal for future debates is I'm fine with the 8 aggressive. I don't mind being known as an aggressive debater, Hey, Truth Defenders. Rouge means red. Rogue means something else. But I may be spelling it wrong. I don't know, man. I feel like that now that it's only when I was dealing with the Calvinists, coming after the Calvinists, now I'm just out of control. Like, why? Is this the only debate you've seen in mine? What about, hey, Christian King, what about my other debates that I've had with Calvinists and they went well? And that's what that chart demonstrates. Depending on the attitude, the energy, and their background and stuff like that affects my response. But still, I like, one thing I'm learning is that even though they are out of control, I still have to exercise self-control,
Now,
what are your thoughts?
Well, I would say all of that is true, right? I think that it's good to check yourself. But the question is, how does it relate to people apostatizing?
Great question. So free grace are known as antinomian, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know.
So, from most people's standpoint, free grace are already apostates.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what that means.
And so,
okay.
And so here's the thing. In some of these situations that we're describing as apostasy, some of these people think they're coming closer to the Lord.
Well, in some instances,
one man's apostasy
right?
is another man's homecoming or something.
Well, here's the thing. In the case of Ben the Believer, well, I think Ben the Believer was once free grace, but then he started to get the NIFB, like you can't apostatize, and then he was amillennial, do with that what you will. And then he started to get influenced by Reformed Baptists. So in their mind, right, from a Calvinist perspective, yeah, he left from apostasy and he came back to the true faith, right, the one true Calvinist faith.
So Risen asked this question: what's the difference between OSAS and free grace? Somebody want to respond?
PB, you want to answer that one?
I'm pretty sure it's like, I'm pretty sure it did answer. Well, not did. Haruzen, I think Haruzen's account answered. And he basically said,
"Is Haruzen the penguin?"
Yeah, he's the penguin.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, why didn't he pull up?
He did.
We're talking about his apostasy.
It would be awkward. I'll just say that much.
It would be awkward, especially considering there's a certain history.
Especially considering that I called full preterism heresy.
Okay.
Yeah. So on top of that, but yeah, it's just basically OSAS is an umbrella term that includes moderate Calvinists, it includes traditional Baptists, it includes like full Calvinists, like quote unquote. It's just an umbrella term, meaning you can't lose your salvation, but free grace is the only one that's consistent with it, right? I would say consistent form.
Fair.
Okay.
They have the creepiest chuckle. Truth defenders. It's not that bad.
Hey.
Excuses, but gone for 2 weeks. All right. Hey, Millennium Envoy. All right. Is Rogue like a running
the creepiest truck? Oh. I just read the. Hey, what were you guys saying?
I'm just looking through the comments, catching up. Let's see.
Why is your laugh so scary?
It's not scary. It's perfectly normal.
Yes, it's scary.
No, it's fun.
Oh my goodness.
You don't like bananas laughing at you?
I was born with it. I didn't come out the womb crying. I came out of it laughing.
I'm sorry, PB. Do we really have to get that extensive?
Well, is there anything else y'all want to talk about?
Let me see what else. You guys want to address the whole? Okay, you guys want to talk about the recent controversy with real free grace and fake and hybrid grace?
Sure.
I can talk about that all day, at least to an extent.
I wrote a paper, right, and not just, and I tried to make it all professional, and I shared it with a bunch of people for editing and suggestions and stuff, and Taylor read it. He actually printed it out to one of his friends so we can understand the differences with free grace. And I will say that basically, I kind of come against everyone in that paper, but hybrid grace especially, which I coined. The term is now official. It's been coined. Hybrid grace, where it mixes lordship principles and antinomian hyper grace behavior. So hybrid between the two. Basically, I come against that, and I officially say nope. That's not free grace. It's inconsistent. it's antinomian, and we don't approve of that. So
yeah. So PB got me going back to looking at the stuff I did whenever I did the Free Grace versus Hyper Grace Wars, and so let me just show y'all that real quick. All right, can y'all see this?
Let's see.
Well, let's look at this one first. So you got Free Grace, and at this time, I was recognizing the hypothetical apostasy view of Free Grace versus the exegetical apostasy. This will allow for some IFB versions, you know. Then you got Lordship Salvation, which can either be Calvinistic or Arminian, and then you have a sampling of Hyper Grace views. Somebody want to read those Hyper Grace views that I have here?
Hypothetical apostasy, Jack Smack, hypothetical sifting the Pharisees, sovereign grace,
No.
Oh, hypocritical. Hypothetical, and what does that mean?
Let me see.
Well,
let me read the hypothetical apostasy, Jack Smack.
Yeah, that was at that time because he really believed that person would persevere in free grace, even though he denied it. Hypocritical is Sniffin's argument that if you're a hypocrite and don't love your brother, it shows you're not saved from 1 John.
I remember when that argument, he was putting that out. I was talking to him. I told him, hey, do you think that this is a very consistent view? And, you know, this was before Haruzenby was preterist, of course. And I was talking to this guy, to Daniel, and I was like, hey, is this consistent? Is this something that you are completely sure about? And from what I've gathered of that conversation, I think he was very sure on something that he himself can't really prove to a greater extent, like extensively, where it covers all of the questions that someone would have when he proposes his view. So I'd say he can prove it, but it's just that he didn't really consider every single question. Like, you know what I mean? Like the potentiality.
Well, here's the thing though, because I've seen his server a little bit. He basically argues, 1 John 3:15 says if you hate your brother, you don't have eternal life. And see, it's just like every lordship, they ignore the part where it says he doesn't have eternal life abiding in him, right? And see, he just ignores that aspect of it. So he says, if you hate your brother, that means denying their testimony because you deny the gospel and blah, blah, blah. And the only verse he uses to prove that, it doesn't even support him.
Sure, you could say that he could take it. He can try to make an argument from the KJV. I mean, he's KJV only, so at least I think he was. Wait, is he?
I want to answer Truth Defender saying, he said, can you put well-known respected scholars in place of YouTubers on those categories? Yeah, I can in the future, and I will. But the Hyper Grace on YouTube is not the same thing as the YouTuber Hyper Grace. And so that's why it's so reflecting, you know.
I have something really funny to say about KJV only. Yesterday, I was on Beckel's stream, and there was this guy there. I forgot his name, but he said the Holy Spirit is the King James Bible.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Oh my goodness. Of course. Wow. Actually, okay, this is a side thing. I actually saw this guy, Truth in Christ. He has a lot of these videos on KJV. And he has a lot of one of them on numerology, and he was trying to say like, the word the 1554 corresponds in the KJV because Jesus is used a certain amount of times, and so is Christ, and you add those two up and you get 1554, and then you divide it a certain way and you get 7. So it's just nonsense. Like, it's just absolutely it's insanity, you know, like when people go like that far to, you know, try to use numerology to prove the KJV is inspired or something.
Yeah, I remember Benjamin of all people recommending me that video, and we're just watching it, and it was like, yeah, look, I get it. if you're looking for, if you're a hopeful, I think someone can be convinced of this. But if you're not willing to concede very easily and you're willing to challenge these views, you can see where, come on, like using numerology to prove the KJV, like, come on, we can do better than this.
It's also like a specific, like a very specific Oxford version of. I don't even have that in my regular Bible. I just have it leather bound, but you have to get like the Oxford version of it. You got to go to the specific page with the specific, size, and it's just like, I don't think it's a good argument at all.
Yeah. Okay, so you got the hypocritical sniffing the Pharisees view,
right?
And then you got the sovereign grace hypocritical destroying the works of the devil view, which is what inspired this. Okay, so that's where they took sovereign grace with that, and then you have the Galatian error accusing view. That's where the view accuses anyone that's free grace of the Galatian error, and so that's David Benjamin and Greg Jackson.
Yeah, but don't they also believe in the hypocritical 1 John thing? I mean, I've seen their videos on it.
Maybe. Then you have the extreme, full-blown antinomians, meaning they don't believe in confession of sin, nothing. They live antinomian, or the Zen hypergrace view, like just be, and they make it. Yeah. So there's that.
Well, have you seen that though? I mean, like, have you actually, like, other prominent YouTubers that?
Well,
that?
David Benjamin has that kind of just be attitude,
Yeah, I mean, if you watch his videos, you can tell that there's a certain, like, laid-back attitude. And again, you're like, I'm not going to assume he's antinomian just based off of his attitude. But the thing is that his theology already gives that away to an extent. Like, come on.
Yeah. So this is going to be a paper in the future, but I wrote this when I was in free grace class, and just some side stuff that I couldn't include in another paper that I was going to use in a future paper. But somebody want to start reading? Here, let me put this in read mode.
All right. Let me try my first reading in the layman seminary. Oh my goodness.
Read in the seminary.
Read this. This is the greatest seminary.
I'm still the book. I'm still the book reader.
All right.
Your boy Charles, the book reader, man.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. This is in the context in which the free grace hyper grace wars occur. While free grace proponents seek definitions and distinctions, they also ask where the line should be drawn. Is a sine qua non of free grace distinguishing itself from hyper grace? Hyper grace is also trying to define itself. It begins by pointing out that the term occurs in the Bible. This is a response against opponents of free grace who label free grace as hyper grace. In that sense, hyper grace seeks to identify with free grace since they believe grace is free and hyper. However, there is a distinct doctrinal differences between free grace and hyper grace that exists on a continuum. For our purposes, hyper grace would be defined as anyone who accuses free grace the proponents of the Galatian error. This is when they agree that salvation is by faith, but sanctification is by works. However, some within free grace would oppose others in the camp who would also say sanctification is by works. Dr. Rosker calls this the free grace fox pass. He believes that faux pas. Right, sorry.
It's French, yeah.
And also Janet said cute voice reading. So
that exists. He believes that sanctification is achieved through grace through faith. At least one critique of Rosker's model of sanctification has disagreed. So rather than saying that the war between free grace and hyper grace is primarily about two opposing models of sanctification, one must recognize that either side is monolithic. That is why a continuum for analysis is suggested. Hyper grace uses the arguments of free grace against lordship against free grace. Hyper grace is not monolithic. Hyper grace is defined here as any free gracer that accuses others of the Galatian error just because there is mention of experiential or progressive sanctification. there are variations in that, hypergrace has become the new lordship. It may have noticed the problem in some free grace articulations that make sanctification sound like it is by works. Sadly, because they are seeking to avoid lordship, they become it. It worsens when this tendency is combined with an interpretation of 1 John that seeks proof of salvation. In other words, they take a lordship position on 1 John and become lordship. It may be that positional salvation unites free grace and hyper, but if there is front-loading or back-loading, then we are back to, can God work through an imperfect gospel? You see, Calvinistic lordship says that positional salvation is the basis of it for eternal security. But what they mean is that true faith will have certain results. Hypergrace argues that it is free grace because it agrees that positional salvation is true. Ironically, like Calvinist lordship, it is arguing that certain things can't occur. Some do it in a more extreme manner than others. Hypothetical apostasy hypergrace view. PB, you want to read this one?
Which part of it?
Starting at the top.
Okay, the most conservative form of hypergrace is those that do not do it from free grace in any way except one. Some of these identify as free grace and deny that they are hypergrace. Free grace and hypergrace both agree on the doctrine of eternal security. However, because there appear to be two types of free grace, hypothetical apostasy and the exegetical apostasy views, hypergrace sometimes identifies with the hypothetical because he didn't believe that a Christian will apostatize. When someone who claims to be free grace or hypergrace apostatizes, they will borrow from the Calvinists and say that person was never saved in the first place. In other words, its form of hypergrace is another form of lordship salvation. Free grace believes neither experiential belief nor behavior disproves one positional salvation. Instead of recognizing that positional assurance is based on one moment, this hypergrace claims that present belief proves one is positionally saved. Indeed, some have gone beyond Hodges and have argued that if a person does not currently have assurance, they are not saved. They arrive at this conclusion because of the interpretation of the statement that assurance is of the essence of saving faith. However, in this context, this is what I call experiential assurance. They justify this by claiming that they are not cardio learners and cannot give false assurances. Yeah, I've heard that. Hypocritical hypergrace view.
It's supposed to be cardio knowers, but I don't know why it switched to learners. But yeah, hypocritical hypergrace view. So this is snipping now. The first one was Jack Smack, basically at that time.
Okay. All right. This view believes that if a Christian does not sow the proper fruit, he is a hypocrite and is not saved. This is tied to a lordship obsessive of salvation view of 1 John. This kind of hypergrace is usually against taking 1 John 1:9 as a responsibility for believers. Some of these do not believe once you confess sins in any way, since Jesus already paid the penalty for sin. Sovereign grace, hypocritical hypergrace view. Let's say that 10 times fast. This view believes that julep is genuine and therefore apostasy is impossible, as certain fruits show that one is not positionally saved. It borrows from the previous strand of hypergrace and combines it with tulip. They do not believe in confessing sins either. They are also against progressive sanctification and even the term experiential sanctification. This opposition is because of the influence of the next hypergrace view in their system. The Galatian error.
That was destroying the works of the devil. Okay.
Yeah, that one is just like borrowing from so you borrow from free grace in terms of this is how you get positionally saved, and then you borrow from hyper grace in terms of like, okay, God, it's sort of a Zen thing, and then you borrow from Calvinism when you say, okay, the Zen thing is because you don't actually have free will and God makes you believe, and then of course you borrow from lordship because, well, if God makes you keep believing, that means you can't apostatize because the author and the finisher of your faith. See, I've seen all their streams on this stuff, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I want to rework some of this and talk about hybrid grace, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay, all go ahead. Now we're on David Benjamin.
This view, this view of hybrid grace believes that any free grace person who teaches salvation is by faith, but sanctification is by works and is guilty of the Galatian error. They usually can extend to say that progressive and experiential sanctification is not biblical because of the Galatian error. They typically have some qualification for how they view 1 John 1:9, divine discipline and reward. Some within this view even believe that the books of James have inspired errors in them. They claim that James was wrong about sanctification. Paul would later correct them in his letters. The extreme hypergrace view. This view teaches that there is no such thing as confession of sin, no divine discipline, and no reward. Legit, some of the people in the Eternal Security server, right? And yes, I've been to that server. I've been invited to it. It's horrible. Not only are they a cult, but they literally deny almost all forms of divine discipline, all forms of confessing sin, and I think they don't believe in rewards because they believe, oh yeah, God just gives everyone a reward to the same degree because the reward is Christ, and it's really bad, man. It's really, really bad. It sometimes allows for antinomian behavior. In other cases, which is ironic because they go against all forms of legalism, but if you question them, oh, you're kicked out of the server. it's actually kind of funny. Anyway, in other cases, it reacts to Watchman Nee and Witness Lee and other extreme doctrine that say some exist within free grace.
Okay, so that's where we bring to where we are now. We're going to take it full circle, and basically understand this right here is that Trey told me the other day that the reason Sniffin became hyper grace is after Young Don apostatized from free grace. So they developed the system to protect themselves from apostasy. To cope.
Wait, how do you? So okay, Young Don apostatized, and they created the system that said, "Oh, a true believer won't apostatize to protect themselves from apostasy."
Yes.
How does that help?
It doesn't help, but it helps the Calvinists. It helped. Remember, that's what the Calvinists did with the Catholics originally. Is those people that are antinomian, they're not really saved anyway. And so what it does is it divorces you from the other people, and they're acting just like lordship. So here's the thing: hybrid grace and hyper grace are just lordship.
Yeah. I mean, we already knew that, but yeah.
The thing is that the difference is that in lordship you can have believers or unbelievers, depending if they believe the gospel at one point in time, But in hyper grace, you got believers. They're all believers that have fallen into lordship. And I plan on doing more stuff in the future. Maybe after you do your presentation, PB, because people keep asking questions about what's the difference between free grace and hyper grace. And now we got to talk about hybrid grace, because this stuff is real. We're not making up things. Apostasy is really occurring on Discord and people that have YouTube channels. There are fake free gracers, people that latched onto the movement, but that have brought in all these other things and used it as an opportunist way, to gain views. It's sort of like this. When everybody was going after Young Don and Gideon, right? It was cool to be called a free grace, right? And then whenever that wave was over, so to speak, then all of them started turning on themselves because they understand that the free grace niche is too small. You're not going to get very many views, and you're not going to grow fast on YouTube if you just stay within that niche. Like I said, I'll grow slowly because of my debates, because of the academic material that we have as we're developing that and growing people in other area. But these other guys that just want to put horns on people and be controversial, they've kind of reached their limit. So now what they've done, some of them, is they've turned against free grace.
Yeah. But actually, Risen Reality asked a question.
Okay.
I actually don't know if it's a he or a she, but
it's a he.
Yeah, okay. So he asked, how do I know if I'm free grace? Is there any question you could ask me to test me? I mean, first question, can you lose salvation? First question, how do you get salvation? Number 2, can you lose salvation? And number 3, can you apostatize from the faith, and potentially die as an apostate? Those are three key questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, Troop Defenders, it's the same guy. He became Trinitarian before he apostatized, ironically, through ministry Anthony Rogers. So Risen is saying I'm a brother fam. So, all right. So basically, do you believe that a Christian can fall into false teaching? Risen. So I think we need to start having more streams dealing with Discord free grace stuff. I don't know how that's going to look, because people are acting like the stuff we're doing. I mean, none of this doesn't exist. Okay, so Risen says we can't lose our salvation based on John 3:16. What if you become a Satanist?
It's that $1 million question.
Next.
I'd rather you hear from me than from Mahler or JP.
Hey, you are definitely gonna hear it from Mahler. I'll say that, because he's definitely gonna be like, you free gracers, are you saying you could just be a Satanist and you'll still go to heaven? Like you're probably gonna get that. But don't worry, you're already good to go.
Yeah. So it's I think we need to have more interaction, because people need to understand what's going on in the Discord, world as it relates to ministry. And I don't know what that looks like exactly as far as how we do that, but I think people need to understand what we're doing on Discord, why we're meeting, why we're studying, when we're fellowshipping, those types of things like that, because that's part of the layman seminary. So PB, can you talk about that real quick? Like, how does the layman seminary, from your perception of things or experience, function out whenever we're offline, I guess you could say?
In terms of like not being live on the stream, I mean, he has his Discord server. In fact, you can ask him for the link. I think he even has it on his channel. You can either go the free grace one, or you can go to the regular one, which is full of a bunch of Calvinists and non-free grace. Which, weirdly enough, Tyler is in the free grace one, and he's not free grace, but it's okay. Whatever. But the thing is, basically he has this thing. You can ask him questions. He has a lot of resources. It's pretty good, and then you can branch out right into other servers that you want, which is kind of how it ended up with me. But but even on top of that, I mean, he'll literally, like, there'll be like 8 of us, and we're talking, and then he comes in, and then he's like, "Hey, I just slept for 1.5 hours. You want to talk about biblical covenantalism?" And then, like, by like an hour reading into it, it's just me and him, and like everyone's left, So that's basically how it works. So that but I mean, it's cool. So I mean, like he still studies offline, and people still study offline, and I mean, it's overall good experience.
All right, cool. Anything else y'all want to say before we land the plane? No?
Actually,
go ahead, PB.
Well, actually, Yahoo asked, have you asked the people who left why they left? Yeah, I mean, well, I've confronted them personally. Hey, why are you? I've just asked them straight out, why are you apostate now? Which is kind of rude in your view, but hey, from my view, it's perfectly acceptable. Because I think they are apostate, and so I've asked Bramble. He's considering Catholicism, so he's not all the way there. And I've asked Noah. He has an article I talked about. I've asked Joachim. He became a deist because of philosophical reasoning and all that stuff. And now he's agnostic. And I've asked who else? I didn't talk too much to Ben. That one was different. I haven't had contact with him. We actually just were asking another guy, a Unitarian Universalist, why he became that. It was because of some conspiracy, ridiculous nonsense. He was always into that. He's like, oh, the KJV translators were wrong. They were Catholic, bro. And the KJV was purchased by the Freemasons. Stuff like that. And what else? I mean, then even am I missing anyone? Oh, I mean, Haruzan. I don't want to call it apostasy, but it's false doctrine, and he got into that because he's anti-dispensationalist.
What doctrines does he deny right now?
He denies the second coming. So yeah.
Is that the only one?
For now, right? But you never know.
He's an annihilationist too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you answer Truth Defender's question?
Who are the false brethren? You're probably talking about 2 Corinthians 11 and Galatians 2. Yeah, those are those could be Judaizers. I don't have a problem saying that they're Judaizers. Judaizers rarely exist today. You could say that they're like Hebrew Israelites, but there's also a view there that just says they're false apostles. I got to look more into that, but for now, I think it's just Judaizers. You identify them because they teach you have to keep the law for salvation, or, yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank y'all for being here for this impromptu stream, both for the people in the stream as well as the people in the chat. And maybe we'll do more stuff like this or something similar. But y'all have a good night. God bless.
All right. Bless.
Take care.